Okay, Mr. Boherick here, and we are doing Chapter 6, Lesson 5. This is converting fractions, decimals, and percent. So converting all of them in between each other and all that good stuff. So keep in mind, though, for all of these numbers, that they're all just different ways to write the exact same thing. So, for example, if I have a fraction like a half, you ate half a pizza or half a bagel or half a whatever, okay, well, I could also say, well, that's the exact same thing as 0.5. I can represent it with that numerical value right there. And I could also say that I ate 50% of the pizza. All of these are the same. Okay, there is absolutely no difference. They are all just different ways to write the same quantity. So, samesies. Alright, so let's talk about what a percent actually is. What in the world does that mean? I mean, we see them all the time. We see like percents, percent off when shopping and stuff like that, or your grades. I mean, it's such and such percent. You got a 97% on the last test. Well, what does the percent part actually mean? Well, percent is just a special type of ratio. So hopefully you remember ratios. It's comparing two numbers by division. Well, in this special type of ratio, it compares a number to 100. That's it. So before you could have like a ratio of 4 boys for every 7 girls or something like that, but now we have a number compared to 100. So it's always going to have a denominator of 100 for a percent. So one helpful way to remember that is the word percent. It literally translates to per, and cent means 100. So when I have an example like something, let's say I have 27%, that literally means 27 per 100. Per 100. 27 over 100. That's a percent. It's a ratio comparing that 27 to 100. So it's actually pretty helpful. 100's a nice number, and it's nice to compare it to 100 because we can relate to that in real life terms. So this helps us convert all of these things into different ways. So let's start off saying, okay, well, what would we do if we wanted to change a decimal into a percent? So decimal to a percent. So how would we do that? Well, I have a little method, and this isn't mine. I stole it from another person, but it's called the DEEP method. D-E-E-P. Okay, the DEEP method. If I want to go from a decimal, D, to a percent, I'm going to be moving a decimal place. I'm going to move it 2 times, hence the 2 E's. Ooh, wow, right? So here's an example. Let's say I have 3 2/10, 3.2, and I want to change that to a percent. So all I need to do is going from D to P, I move it 2 times to the right. So here's my decimal, and 1, 2 is going to go right here. Alright, so this empty space is going to have a 0 fill in right here, and then we add our percent sign. So 3.2, or 3 2/10, turns into 320%. Let's do one more, just in case. So let's say I have 0.4. Okay, I want to change this decimal into a percent, so I need to move it 2 times to the right. Move the decimal place 2 times right. 1, 2. So let's drop our 0 in there and add our percent sign. So 0.4 is 40%. So that's changing a decimal to a percent. Now, here's the interesting thing about the DEEP method. If you want to go the other way, it works just as well. So I can change a percent to a decimal just by moving 2 places to the opposite direction. So percent to a decimal. So let's do a few of these. So percent to a decimal. So if I have 43%, and I want to change that to a decimal, I just take the decimal point, which is right there, and I move it 2 times to the left. 1, 2. So that's 0.43, 43 hundredths. Do one more. If I have, I don't know, let's say 219%, okay, I'm going to move it 2 times to the left because there's 2 E's in deep. 1, 2. It's going to go right there. So 2.19, 2 and 19 hundredths. All right, so let's clear this up a little bit. There we go. All right, so the next thing I want to do is we've done decimals to percents and percents to decimals. So let's go ahead and say, well, what would we do if we have to change a percent into a fraction? So a percent changing into a fraction. Well, remember, percent literally means per 100. So let's say I've got 27%. I don't know why I like that one so much, but I would change that to 27 over 100 and then simplify. Okay, let's do another one, a really common one actually, 75%. Well, that's 75 over 100, and this simplifies by 25. So that would be 3 over 3/4. So 75% as a fraction is 3/4. 27% is 27 over 100. So all you do is you put over 100 and simplify if possible. That's it. That's all there is to it. So how would I go and do a fraction as a percent? Let's go the other direction. So fraction to a percent. Okay, well, let's say I have something like 5 over 16. And 5/16. Well, I need to make sure, what I really want to do is I want to get this denominator to be 100, because if it's 100, then the numerator is the percent. So, for example, over here, if the denominator is 100, well then 27%. It's pretty easy when it's 100. But for 16, I don't see any easy way to make that 100. So in this case, I literally just have to do some division. 15 divided by 16. Or 5 divided by 16, excuse me. All right, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. So 5 goes in here, 16 on the outside. And we're going to have to extend this a little bit. Hopefully I have enough room here. 16 goes into 5 3 times, and so that should be 48. Bring down the 2 here, add a 0. 16 goes into 20 1 time. With 4 remaining, bring down another 0. I hope I have room here. 16 goes into 40 2 times. That's 32. And there's 8 remaining. And bring down one more 0. 16 goes into 80, yep, 5 times. And I forgot to write my decimal place right there. So once I've done this, I've changed this fraction into a decimal now. So now I'd like to change this decimal, 0.3125. I want to change that to a percent, and we know how to do that. It's the deep method. So this decimal to a percent, we just move the decimal place 1, 2, and I did that really sloppily, but that's what it would be. So 31.25%. So 5/16 is 31.25% as a percent. So that was how you would do a fraction to a percent. Now, what if I had a fraction that's, there's a little shortcuts every once in a while. If I had a fraction that already had a denominator that's really, really nice. So, for example, what was that? 7/10. Well, I want a denominator of 100. So, couldn't I just multiply this by 10 over 10? 70 over 100. That's an equivalent fraction to this 7/10. And now, hey, that's 70% because it's 70 per 100. So that would be the answer to 7/10. All right, I think I've covered just about all of them. We've done changing a percent to a decimal, changing a percent to a fraction, changing a decimal to a percent, went fractions to decimals. Remember, if you want to do decimals to fractions, We've already done that before, but just a quick review, it would just be you say it correctly. So if you say 0.33, you say 33 hundredths. 33 hundredths, you say it correctly, and voila, you have a fraction. So I think we've converted all of them, so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm Mr. Bajork, and that was converting fractions, decimals, and percents.